You've seen the clip before. A nature documentary, a wide golden plain, a herd moving together in that slow, careful rhythm herds move in. Then the camera finds her. One female, moving just a little slower than the rest. Round belly, heavy steps, and within seconds, you already know which animal the lions are about to choose. You've probably assumed it's because she's weak, slow, an easy meal. But the real answer is far stranger than that, and it has almost nothing to do with weakness at all. It's about math. Cold, evolutionary math. That both predator and prey have been running for millions of years, long before either species had a word for pregnancy, or fear, or hunger. And once you understand that math, you'll never watch that clip the same way again. Start with the obvious part first because it matters, even if it isn't the whole story. Pregnancy changes a body. Late-stage pregnancy especially. The added weight shifts an animal's center of gravity, her sprint speed drops, her turning radius widens. In species that survive almost entirely on their ability to outrun a predator in the first 10 seconds of a chase, that small drop in speed is enormous. A few percentage points slower can be the difference between a wildebeest that escapes and one that doesn't. But here's the question that actually matters. If slowness were the whole answer, predators would target the old, the sick, and the injured just as often as the pregnant. And they do target those animals too. So why do researchers, again and again across completely different ecosystems, find pregnant females showing up in predator kill sites far more often than their numbers in the herd would predict? The answer starts with something you can't see from a documentary camera. Scent. Pregnancy doesn't just change how an animal moves, it changes how an animal smells. Hormonal shifts during gestation, the biological term for the time a fetus develops inside its mother, alter the chemical signature an animal gives off. Elevated progesterone. Elevated cortisol, the hormone your body releases under physical stress. Changes in the volatile organic compounds released through skin, breath, and waste. To a human nose, none of this registers. To a wolf, a lion, or a hyena, whose entire world is built out of scent the way yours is built out of sight, it can be as obvious as a flashing sign. Wildlife biologists tracking wolf packs in Yellowstone have documented this directly. Wolves don't wander a valley and randomly bump into an elk. They test the herd first. They circle, they probe, they watch how individual animals respond to pressure. And multiple field studies have found that late pregnant and near-term females get selected out of that testing process at rates that don't match simple chance. The wolves aren't guessing. They're reading a signal that's been broadcasting the whole time, one the elk herself has almost no way to hide. Now, here's where the story stops being simple, because scent and slowness only explain half of the picture. The other half is about calories. And this is where the math gets genuinely brutal. A predator's entire life is an energy budget. Every chase costs fuel. Every failed hunt is a loss the body has to recover from before trying again. Big cats fail far more hunts than they succeed, some studies putting lion success rates below 30% for large prey. So when a predator does commit to a chase, the payoff has to be worth the risk. And a pregnant female isn't carrying one body's worth of calories anymore. She's carrying two. Late-term fetal tissue is extraordinarily energy-dense. Fat reserves in a pregnant female are also elevated because her body is stockpiling the resources needed for birth and for the intense caloric demand of nursing afterward. To a predator's metabolism, a single pregnant female can represent close to double the nutritional return of a non-pregnant animal of the same size. Two forms of life. One chase. Does that mean a fetus is a target on purpose? Not exactly, and this is the part most people get wrong. The predator isn't hunting a pregnancy. It's hunting a body that happens to be carrying more value than usual, wrapped inside a body that happens to be moving just a little slower and smelling just a little different than the rest of the herd. Three separate vulnerabilities, stacking on top of each other, all pointing at the exact same animal. There's a fourth layer too, and it's the one almost nobody talks about. Behavior. As birth approaches, many prey species begin to change how they act inside the group. Some drift toward the edges of the herd, seeking a quieter, more private spot to give birth. Others become distracted, hyper-focused on discomfort, on physical sensation, on the enormous biological event about to happen inside them. Vigilance, the constant scanning for danger that keeps a herd animal alive, requires attention. And late pregnancy pulls attention inward, whether the animal wants it to or not. Predators have learned to read this too. Hyena researchers studying wildebeest calving season on the Serengeti have documented a dramatic seasonal spike in kills timed almost exactly to the peak of birthing. It isn't only newborn calves being taken, vulnerable as they are. It's mothers, caught in that narrow window where her body is at its heaviest, her attention is at its most divided, and her scent is broadcasting louder than at any other point in her life. So ask yourself this. If nature runs on efficiency, why would prey animals ever evolve to give off a signal this dangerous in the first place? Wouldn't natural selection eliminate that scent, that slowness, that inward focus, generation after generation, until pregnancy became invisible to predators? The answer is that it can't. Not fully. Because the very hormones that create the vulnerability are the same hormones required to grow a healthy fetus and prepare a body for birth. There is no version of mammalian pregnancy that doesn't involve fat storage, hormonal surges, and reduced mobility. The vulnerability isn't a design flaw. It's the unavoidable cost of the most demanding biological project a body can undertake. Evolution didn't fail to fix this weakness. It simply had no way to build new life without it. And this is where the story gets its strangest twist. Because prey species didn't just accept this vulnerability and hope for the best. Many of them built entire strategies around managing it. Look at how herding mammals behave in the days before birth. Elephants are one of the clearest examples. A pregnant female nearing labor is often surrounded, deliberately, by other females in her group. A formation researchers sometimes call a birthing wall. Other adults position their bodies outward, facing potential threats, while the mother is shielded at the center. This isn't random herd movement. It's cooperative defense, built specifically around the most vulnerable moment in a female's reproductive life. Some species take an even stranger approach. Certain deer and antelope isolate themselves completely before giving birth, choosing dense cover and total stillness over the safety of numbers. It sounds counterintuitive. Wouldn't the herd be safer? But a newborn fawn can't yet run. A pregnant or newly birthed female is temporarily one of the slowest animals in the ecosystem. In that specific window, blending into silence and cover can outperform the protection of the group because a predator following a scent trail toward a herd is a very different threat than a predator with no trail to follow at all. Two completely different strategies. Group defense in one species, total isolation in another. Both evolved independently, in different environments, on different continents, solving the exact same ancient problem. How do you protect the most valuable, most vulnerable version of yourself from a threat that can smell what your own body can't hide? Now bring this forward. Because you're a mammal too, and your species carries the exact same evolutionary fingerprints, even if the predators disappeared from most of your daily life a long time ago. Human pregnancy comes with almost the identical physical signature. Reduced mobility in later stages. Elevated cortisol. Shifts in scent that some researchers believe may be detectable, at least faintly, by other humans on an instinctive level. And just like elephants forming a wall around a laboring mother, human cultures across history have converged on remarkably similar instincts. Communities that organize themselves, often without anyone consciously deciding to, around protecting pregnant women. Extra caution, extra attention. A kind of unspoken social alert that switches on the moment a pregnancy becomes visible. Have you ever noticed how a stranger's pregnancy changes the way people behave around them? Seats offered without being asked, doors held a little longer. Something in most people quietly shifts into a more protective mode. That reaction feels modern, even polite, like a product of manners and social training. But the instinct underneath it is far older than manners. It's the same ancient alarm that once told an elephant herd to circle inward, translated into a species that no longer needs to fear lions on the walk to work. Hospitals do formally what herds once did instinctively. Extra monitoring in the final weeks. Reduced physical strain recommended by doctors. A cultural default that treats late pregnancy as a state requiring protection, not because danger is stalking the delivery room, but because the biological vulnerability is real, even when the predator is gone. The threat changed. The underlying signal never did. There's something worth sitting with here. For millions of years across nearly every mammal species on Earth, the exact moment an animal became most capable of creating new life was also the exact moment it became most exposed to losing its own. Not despite the miracle of reproduction, but because of it. The fat stores that build a healthy fetus are the same fat stores a predator's body is starving for. The hormones that prepare a womb for birth are the same hormones a nose across the plain can detect from 100 meters away. The instinct that pulls a mother's focus inward toward the life growing inside her is the same instinct that pulls her attention away from the danger circling outside. Nature never separated creation from risk. It welded them together, permanently, in every mammal that has ever carried young, including yours. So the next time you see that clip, the herd on the plain, the lions closing in, the one female moving just a little slower than the rest, you'll know what you're actually watching. Not bad luck, not simple weakness. You're watching the oldest, most unavoidable trade nature ever made. The price every mammal has paid, for as long as mammals have existed, for the chance to bring something new into the world. And somewhere in you, underneath the manners and the modern world, that same old alarm is still wired in, still watching, still quietly deciding who, in any given room, deserves an extra measure of care. You've seen that clip before. Now you know it was never really about the lions at all.